Hi, I'm Bob Preto, Senior Vice President of Fluor Corporation's Industrial and Infrastructure Group. The economy, politics, and sustained disinvestment in our nation's infrastructure seem to be converging to do something. But that something must produce not only desired economic stimulus and jobs, but more importantly, set us on a path for a more sustainable model for infrastructure delivery. We are faced not only with a generational challenge, but more importantly, with a generational opportunity. A comprehensive approach is required. Today, we'll set out a 4-point plan for national infrastructure renewal to foster the debate on comprehensive infrastructure planning. This plan builds on models that have served us well in the past and applies those models in light of the challenges ahead. Point number 1. The National Infrastructure Competitiveness and Independence Plan, or today's Marshall Plan. Modeled in many ways after the Marshall Plan that rebuilt European industry and infrastructure after World War II, the National Infrastructure Competitiveness and Independence Plan will be founded on 2 core visions: an energy independence vision and an infrastructure competitiveness vision. Like the Marshall Plan, the emphasis will be on implementing today's technologies while tomorrow's are being developed. And like the Marshall Plan, investments that promote U.S. competitiveness and ideals will take precedence. Investments will come with very clear and very self-serving national strings, just like the Marshall Plan. This vision must be founded on new principles that include a comprehensive systems and life cycle perspective, unconstrained by election cycles, political boundaries, or definitions of different infrastructure systems. A true understanding of the implications of sustainable practices such that our infrastructure systems are responsibly managed, operated, and maintained financially, socially, and environmentally throughout their complete life cycle. A willingness to recognize and provide for the true cost of the infrastructure systems we require, and a recognition that, like all valuable resources, its allocation must be prioritized to maximize the benefits it provides. Point 2, establish a National Infrastructure Education Act, the new GI Bill. The future of our nation is not only linked to the capital base we have in place to be competitive, but more importantly to the knowledge base we as a nation have. At an earlier time in our history, the GI Bill provided broad segments of our society with an access to an education they could not otherwise afford. The result of those efforts was an expansion in the number of engineers, scientists, and skilled workers, the likes of which our nation had never seen. This was the workforce that designed and built our interstate highway system, much of our current power grid, and sent the man to the moon. We're now at another point in our history where such a focused education effort to meet our infrastructure needs of the 21st century is called for. Point number 3, create a United States Infrastructure Reconstruction Bank. This would be the creation of a self-financing, broad-based, independent infrastructure reconstruction bank. The bank would be capitalized by initial capital contribution consistent with the estimated $1.6 trillion backlog of deferred maintenance for U.S. infrastructure. That funding would come from the federal government. The U.S. Infrastructure Reconstruction Bank would make loans to state-sponsored infrastructure projects as well as privately financed infrastructure projects. Bond interest could be tax exempt and excluded from any state or federal level AMT type calculations. Bundled depreciation could be used by bondholders as a refundable federal tax credit. Point 4, create action-oriented infrastructure technical standards. Today, technical societies develop with great care and diligence the technical standards which guide our design and engineering of the nation's infrastructure. In turn, professional engineers in each state and municipality adopt these standards or even more stringent criteria and codify these in state regulation. The reality is that state engineers simply do not adopt less stringent regulations than the national standards, if for no other reason than they do not want to hold the risk associated with doing so. Technical standards should not stop at defining something as unsatisfactory. They must go one step further and lay out the methodology to determine in what time frame they must be brought up to a satisfactory level based on a full consideration of the risks they represent and the associated inefficiencies that exist. It's not acceptable in my view to wait for others without the necessary technical or risk founding to make it right. We must provide leadership, and now is the time to act.